AskReddit by Isobax. Reddit, how do you feel about the possibility of a NATO-Russia direct conflict? Removed. The argument is that Russia will try to drive a wedge between NATO members. The alliance is not as strong as it appears. Imagine Trump as president and Russia uses a very small tactical nuke in some remote corner of Finland. Who wants to engage in full-scale war? Would the US want to be all in? What if the nuke is in the Suwalki corridor? What if it is a stray cruise missile hitting some NATO country? Hungary and Turkey, what will they do? Putin's plan is to weaken by separation. Chances of that are low. Shh, you are upsetting major news outlets. They make bank off paranoia like that. Russia still has their hands full with Ukraine. There is a statistically insignificant chance of them attacking a NATO country. Now if I lived in Moldova I'd have paperwork written up to rejoin Romania, like now. I feel the masculine urge to go die in a nameless battlefield next to a Frenchman at the ripe old age of 26. The call is deep in our genes. A dormant monster that I hope we'll never awake. Such a conflict would have significant and far-reaching consequences, not only for the countries directly involved but also for global stability. It's essential for all parties to prioritize diplomacy, dialogue, and conflict resolution mechanisms to prevent such a scenario and work towards de-escalation and peaceful resolutions to any tensions. Russia doesn't care about any of that. Hell, they let their soldiers rape Ukrainian children for Russian forces. Try to vault greedy men desperately trying to immortalize themselves at the cost of everyone else. As a cartoon horse said many times. No sir, I don't like it. Edited for autocorrect. We already are in a conflict. It's just one-sided, only Russia is playing. NATO is not doing anything. Russia is clearly mingering in public opinions, buying out politicians and doing other shady stuff. In effect waging a social and economical war. It's even killing our citizens, UK, MH370 etc. They'll keep stepping up until NATO responds. NATO now has a very clear opportunity to respond through the Ukraine conflict and it should. Russia is a bully that only understands violence. NATO should learn how to speak that language. It's not trying to be an all-out nuclear war straight away. Putin is so scared of dying that he hides 24/7 in a bunker and only talks to guests behind a 15M table. NATO inserting itself materially into a war that involves no NATO allies has stone zero chance of happening. They will continue funding and supplying Ukraine but will never provide personal or direct support. Not well. I don't think about it, I just live my life. Ukrainians are trying to live theirs too. 8 people, including children, were killed last night from Russia's bombing runs on the city of Dnipropetrovsk. https://kiev-independent.com/russian-attack-on-dnipro-kills-1-6/closed bracket. Luckily they managed to shoot down one of the strategic Tu-22 bombers killing innocent civilians in Ukraine. But Russia will keep sending unguided glide bombs that end up killing even more innocent people. It's not. Neither side wants nuclear war, and Russia has proven that its forces are worn out and overrated. The US would run roughshod over Russia's Soviet-era military that's been corroded by the corruption of Putin's cabal. If NATO would actually go for it, I imagine some Eastern European countries would basically race to Moscow. They don't have a bone to pick with Russia, they have enough bones to pick to fill the entire empty plains of Russia with them. If it happens it would really fucking suck. That would really mess up the flow of the world in every aspect. In normal conditions it wouldn't make any sense, since no NATO country is involved in the current war. But people tend to do things that are not normal. I'll hope for the best and play it by ear. NATO would be home by dinner time. Russia is an embarrassment. Sadly they are also genocidal and willing to sacrifice their own young men to steal a few toilets. But nah, NATO would fuck them up. The bigger worry would be who would replace Putin. Not great, but then you can't let that rat bully us and destabilize our way of life either. I'll sign up if needs be. Inevitable. This question is, how do you feel about World War III, which would have a real chance of including nuclear weapons? How the fuck do you think we're going to feel about it? Not going to happen. That's what they said about Putin invading Ukraine too. And Georgia. And let's just put it this way. You have a coalition of democratic nations bound by mutual defense on one side and Russia, who has invaded several sovereign nations, on the other. Morally, NATO is in the right if there's a conflict. And they'll wipe the floor with Russia, who has been in a 3-day special operation for more than 2 years. That's what CNN and BBC told us. Not happening. Apprehensive. Well, it's not the end of the world. Except it is, most likely, end of our civilization. Amount of nukes both sides possess does not give me optimism. Russia has been attacking NATO countries ever since Putin got in power. In Russia they use missiles and tanks, in the rest of the world they are more hidden, but that doesn't mean there are no attacks or victims. Fuck Russia, I wish the West finally accepted what Russia is, stop letting them get away with all the shit they've been pulling. NATO is defensive, defending Ukraine against genocide is the right thing to do, those in charge are feckless cunts for standing by. If Biden wins, it will never happen, Russia simply doesn't have the resources to take on a strong functioning NATO. If Trump wins it is inevitable.